Hello and welcome to another Happy 101 session. In this session, we are going to create our first application. Go to the Happy dashboard and register a new realm. Choose your realm name carefully because it cannot be changed later. Click on Create a new app to get started. App label is a human-friendly version of your app name. The checkbox allows you to automate the creation of releases and instances instead of explicitly doing it yourself. You don't lose any control though in case you still want to change their properties or even add more releases or more instances. You will automatically be redirected to the releases dashboard, and here you can customize the release. Click on the release card and edit the form details. The radio buttons on the left designate whether the release is still a draft or published for your client apps to use. The text field for description can be changed here as well. As we scroll down a bit, there is a section for app dependency management. The next lecture will be dedicated to app dependency, but for now let's mention that by default, the only dependency required is Happy Core App. The Core App gives you access to the default features and functionalities available out of the box on the platform. Further down is the serverless functions, which can be executed in the cloud, allowing for adding endless customizations to your app. The environment settings allow you to declare global variables that can be later populated as per the app instance deployed. For example, configurations that are different based on each instance. Recall that instances are isolated from each other, and if hypothetically you are reselling your app to a different client, this feature allows you to add different settings for each one. Another use is when you integrate with external APIs. You can store API keys and other info in the instance settings. Let's scroll back up and head to the console. This is where the magic happens. You can define a schema for your app release using either the graphical user interface or the Schema Editor. Let's click on Core Tables to sneak a peek on the available Happy models. There are obviously many of them to give you the equivalent of a Swiss knife that animate your apps. On the left is the table name, and by clicking on any table, the right panel will display the available fields, aka columns, along with the data type. Now click on the Add Table and start filling the details. We shall start with the table name, and for this example, I will create a products table with two string fields, title and description. Observe on the right there are two checkboxes. The first will automatically create CRUD APIs for this table. By default, all tables that you create are included in the API Happy generates for you. By enabling this checkbox, you tell Happy to only generate APIs for the tables with this enabled. This is a powerful feature which enables you to do domain-driven design. That is, each table in DDD with this option enabled will become a root aggregate. Check out any DDD book or Wikipedia if you are interested. The second checkbox will toggle display the fields that are auto-generated by Happy to allow for core features such as joins and one-to-many relations. The hidden fields will be further elaborated on in another lecture. On the Field Designer panel, you can choose the data type to be integer, string, or any other. There are a few more options such as allowing multiple values to create an array or reference another table to do the equivalent of object composition. Observe here that you can reference another table within your own app or from any other app accessible as a dependency. And then you can mark the required checkbox if this field is mandatory. Lastly, the transform name checkbox will replace spaces and try to ensure the name you enter is a valid column name as far as Happy is concerned. Once you are done, hit save and continue. Now let's go to the Schema Editor under the GraphQL tab. Here you can define your model using pure GraphQL. If you are a developer with some GraphQL background, this may be quicker or more flexible for you. In case the visual designer cannot express something you want to express in your APIs or table design. Now navigate to an instance dashboard to get the API information so that you can start implementing your app client. And here is where the deployed instances are displayed. Observe how marking the automation checkbox has already created the app instance for you. Once you click on the instance link to display the instance info, observe here how the tables are still displayed on the left panel for reference. First, take note of, in the middle window, is the GraphQL endpoint. This is the base URL to perform any queries or mutations against the server. The HTTP method is always going to be POST. The WebSockets endpoint is the one to be used for subscriptions, aka real-time updates. This concept will be further elaborated on in a dedicated video lecture. And next is the HTTP headers to be used with the GraphQL request. The domain will help Happy map the request to your instance, and the token will be used for authentication and authorization. Think of the token as a password for sake of simplicity. The methods section gives you a complete list of available GraphQL functions, along with request parameters, response fields, and an example query on the right side. If you click the drop-down menu, you can explore more on your own. Now head to the playground to execute actual requests, and let me highlight the main components of the playground. If you click the plus icon, it will create a new tab, and this will allow you to have multiple queries open at the same time. The left panel is for writing GraphQL queries, while the right panel displays the results. And if you scroll down, the headers tab shows the auto-populated headers, and the query variables tab allow you to define JSON values for variables used in the GraphQL query. The examples will further elaborate this concept. The right side menus give you quick access to the documentation and the schema. Open the schema tab and hit download. And now go to the Postman website to download the GraphQL client. postman.com/product/GraphQL-client. Download the right version of Postman for your operating system, and then once installed, click the import button on the Postman window and browse to the GraphQL schema file that we have just downloaded, and then view the GraphQL schema definitions. Just be aware that you will need to download the new schema if Happy releases new updates. Normally this is automated in your build tools, or you can ignore the update if you don't need the new functionality, because Happy guarantees that any core APIs will ever change by only adding fields or type, and we will never remove or change existing ones. Now let's actually start executing some requests on the products table. In the GraphQL playground, mutation, upsert, open parentheses, $values, happy upsert input union, exclamation mark, close parentheses, open curly brackets, upsert, open parentheses, values, $values, close parentheses, open new curly brackets, ID, close the curly brackets. Now let's break it down to understand what's going on. Mutation is for operations that have side effects, such as adding or updating records. An upsert is a built-in mutation which is defined in Happy that will allow for generic insertions and updates of any GraphQL type. The $values is a variable that will be mapped to Happy upsert input union. Happy upsert input union is a built-in GraphQL type for all insert and update operations. It is generated from all the tables that you define in your app schema, and it only changes per app. Inside the curly brackets, we invoke the method upsert and pass the variable values. The nested curly brackets are for the returned type, in this case ID, which is the only field to be returned. The ID here stands for the identifier of the new record or for the existing record in cases of update. Now let's include the variable $values, and it is initialized as JSON in the variables panel as follows. Open curly brackets, double quotes values, open curly brackets, double quotes product, open curly brackets again, double quotes title, and then double quotes the title string, double quotes description, colon, and then the description string within double quotes, and then close the curly brackets. The JSON object has the actual values of the product type to be inserted. In this case, it is only the title and description fields. Hit run and observe the returned ID. You can also do multiple entries in one shot by supplying multiple product objects separated by a comma. Let's demonstrate with an example. Open curly brackets, double quotes values, colon, open curly brackets again, double quotes product, colon, and then open square brackets, and then open curly brackets again, double quotes title, colon, double quotes the title string, comma, double quotes description, colon, double quotes the description string, close curly bracket, comma, open curly brackets again, double quotes title, colon, double quotes the title string, comma, double quotes description, colon, double quotes the description string again, close the curly brackets and the square brackets in the same order. Now let's demonstrate an update example. To do an update, we must supply the ID as part of the request payload. Happy will automatically detect the identifier and update the existing record. So let's start by typing open curly brackets, double quotes values, colon, open curly brackets again, double quotes product, colon, open curly brackets, double quotes title, colon, double quotes title string, comma, double quotes description, colon, double quotes description string, comma, and then double quotes happy, colon, open curly brackets, double quotes ID, colon, and then copy and paste the ID of the object that you want to update and insert in here, and then close the curly bracket. So now let's open a new tab to run a find query that will retrieve all the products. We start by typing the following GraphQL request. Open curly brackets, find, open parentheses, type, colon, product, comma, RQL, colon, double quotes, asterisk, close parentheses, open curly brackets, ages, open curly brackets, node, open curly brackets, 3 dots on product, open curly brackets, title, description, happy, open curly brackets again, ID, close curly brackets, and then add cursor, and then close curly brackets again in the same order. So let's break it down to understand how to write our own find queries. The operation is defined on the type query, which is built in on Happy. The find is passed the type parameter, in this case product, and it is also passed the RQL query, in this case asterisk, which stands for retrieving all matches. We have a dedicated session on RQL filtering and sorting. Recall from our discussion of GraphQL that it has the semantics of graphs, that is, it views objects as nodes and relations as edges. When we use the 3 dots on the product type, it indicates an inline fragment on GraphQL. You can consult the GraphQL documentation to understand more about fragments. In the nested curly brackets, we provide the fields that to be returned. In this case, title, description, and Happy ID. In this session, we have created our first app on Happy, and we did create, update, and find on the products table. In the next video lecture, we shall reuse this app as a dependency for another app. Thank you and see you in the next session.